Today we bring you a developing story of diplomacy, courage and urgency as Qatar's Emir lands in Jordan to foster cooperation in response to the recent attack involving Israel. This visit signals a deepening concern in the region and a willingness by Gulf leadership to engage directly in conflict resolution and stabilization efforts. It is a moment where decisions matters more than ever because the ripple effects of conflict do not stay within borders. When Qatar's Emir arrived in Amman, the capital of Jordan, the atmosphere was heavy with consequence. Leaders from both Doha and Amman are acutely aware that violence in one part of the Middle East always travels elsewhere. In private discussions and public statements, the focus is not only on condemning aggression and suffering but also on building working frameworks for regional cooperation to prevent further escalation. Cooperation in intelligence sharing, diplomatic coordination, humanitarian assist, and mediation efforts all are likely topics under intense negotiation. Each side understands that isolated responses no longer suffice in times of crisis. Jordan has faced a relentless series of challenges in recent weeks. Thousands of innocent civilians caught in crossfire, economic strains from displaced persons, border security threats. These issues are compounded by the pressure of public expectation that their government must stand firm yet reach out to allies. Similarly, Qatar has long been known for its mediation role in war zones and its capacity to act as interlocutor between conflicting parties. The Emir's visit underscores Doha's intent to deepen its role beyond facilitating dialogue toward concrete action as an enabler of peace and stability. Inside the meeting rooms of Amman, leaders share stories of loss and hope. Those recounting grief over destroyed homes and broken lives are also sharing, regardless of political divides, a wish for peace. Those who stand at the forefront of crisis management, from aid workers to security officials, speak of logistical nightmares of delivering food, water, shelter, medicine, and the razor-thin margin between aid reaching those most in need or becoming tangled in bureaucracy or conflict lines. It is here where Qatar's resources and networks may prove decisive. Diplomacy in this hour means more than issuing statements. It means moving swiftly to form diplomatic missions that can speak directly with various harmed parties. It means opening humanitarian corridors. It means negotiating ceasefires and safe zones. It means coordinating with international bodies in neighboring states to pool capabilities. Jordan's geographic position makes it essential as both a receiver of human suffering and a partner in routing efforts for peace. There is also talk of restoring trust among neighbors whose relationships have fluctuated between rivalry, cooperation, moral obligation, and political expediency. The region has long been a chessboard of shifting alliances. Qatar's history of balancing relationships with Israel, Iran, the United States, and other Gulf states positions it uniquely as a broker at times when trust feels in short supply. But trust must be built on shared risk and shared responsibility. For Qatar's Emir, this visit may be a BOUT offering both. Public opinion across Jordan, Qatar, and wider Arab world watches closely. The people demand accountability, compassion. They demand an end to indiscriminate violence and protection of civilians. They demand that their leaders act with moral clarity and purpose, and that those promises transform into action. Within Amman, readings of what is said in public carry weight. Every gesture is scrutinized, every word weighed, especially with social media amplifying voices from the street to satellite news coverage. The timing of the attack involving Israel forces and its humanitarian fallout created a window where regional leaders cannot afford silence or delay. Diplomacy must be assertive, anchoring cooperation now serves not simply national interests but survival interests across communities threatened by displacement, hunger, insecurity, and sectarian tension. The pressure on Qatar's Emir is not only to manage immediate fallout but to help shape what comes after wars, how borders are managed, how aid is delivered, how agreements are enforced. There are risks to stepping into such negotiation spaces. Qatar must balance its relationships to avoid alienating partners. Some may view its assertiveness as interference, others may distrust its motives. Fear of spillover from conflict into Jordan itself is real, as waves of refugees, crossings of militants, or unintended provocations pose security threats. Jordan must navigate its sovereignty while embracing a role in a broader regional equilibrium. Similarly, Qatar must position itself carefully. ID appearing partial while sustaining a voice strong enough to influence outcomes. Humanitarians stress that neutrality mixed with moral clarity is the only way forward. Yet in this moment of crisis there are seeds of hope. The visit itself signals something beyond symbolism. Leaders are moving toward coordinated responses, drawing from regional strengths: Jordan's social mobilization skills, its existing networks with aid agencies, its border control capabilities, and its legitimacy at home. Qatar's wealth, diplomatic reach, media influence, and track record of brokering delicate agreements. These together might enable innovations such as joint relief hubs. Forward operatin G Centers for Conflict Mediation and Collaborative Security Patrols to secure supply routes. More than anything, this visit reminds us that in regions marked by conflict, destruction cannot be cleaned up by one nation alone, that collective response builds resilience, that when neighboring states lean into shared problems rather than retreat behind walls, lives are saved and futures preserved for people whose homes have been ruined, whose families have suffered, who wake to sirens rather than calm dawns. There is no substitute for action. As we watch the outcome of the Emir's visit, there are several benchmarks to measure success. How quickly can agreements be codified? How many affected civilians will receive immediate assistance? How will cross-border tensions be managed in weeks ahead? Will violent clashes reduce? Will displacement slow? Will safe zones or ceasefires hold even temporarily? Will diplomatic channels remain open once media cameras leave? What happens next will either help build momentum toward lasting cooperation or C. P. Rames's fate under pressure of renewed conflict. We are in a moment when the moral arc of the region bends not toward justice automatically, but toward whoever grasps responsibility and acts with humility and resolve. The courage to move from words to deeds may yet decide whether peace in this period is a fragile interlude or foundation for something more enduring. The Emir's visit may be remembered not for the flights and speeches, but for what follows, for the agreements signed, the lives spared, the borders stabilized, conversation chalked into act. On. In the coming days, we will see whether cooperation deepens, whether humanitarian aid moves without obstruction, whether conflict spillovers are contained, whether local voices are heard, whether regional unity proves stronger than division. For viewers watching from afar, the human story is not abstract. Lives are at stake, futures reshaped by whether leaders step up now as custodians of hope or retreat into rhetoric only. Qatar's Emir in Jordan is more than diplomatic theater. It may be one of the most consequential overtures toward stabilizing a fractured region after a crisis too many have waited too long. This moment demands more than formal visits, it demands lasting solidarity, because in the aftermath of attack, consequences are not consigned to history, they become the bedrock of what comes next. Peace is fragile, cooperation is essential, and in this meeting in Amman, the region may be laying a foundation that for once holds.